Welcome back to our flipped classroom, day 2 of learning about decimals. Now, before we move on to adding new thinking, we're going to take a look at what we already know. We know decimals are all around us, and you might recognize some of these. We know that they are part of a whole, so like in these two, or they can be in combination with whole numbers like these two. We know that they are an extension of our place value chart. Quantities on this side of the decimal, make sure I don't go over there, are whole numbers. And as we go into this direction, they get bigger. However, with decimals, once we go past this decimal spot, we're in quantities that are less than wholes. And it's actually the opposite. As we go further this way, the quantities get smaller. And we can think about it as in looking at our base 10 materials with a magnifying glass. So if this is 1 and we split it up into 10 parts, each part would look like that. And if we were to take that one whole and split it up into 100 parts, each one would look like that. We would need 100 of these to make one whole. And these are called hundredths. And if we were to look at this with a magnifying glass, that's what it would be. So let's go ahead and take a look at hundredths today. There we are. So this is our hundredth grid. There's 100 of them. If you were to think about this as money, you might recognize that this would be equivalent to a penny. Now, we don't actually have penny as coins anymore because it costs more to make a penny than a penny is worth. Big thinking. But yes, we need 100 pennies to make $1. We need 100 hundredths to make one whole. Now, I know you're smart and you're probably thinking, Mrs. Curry, I recognize this. And that's right. 10 hundredths is the same as 1/10. If I was to put these over top of each other, 20 hundredths, 2/10ths, and overlap them, they represent the same amount. 20 hundredths is the same or equivalent to 2/10ths. All right, grab your printables that you printed out the other day, or if you didn't, pause the video, click on the link, print them out again, and I need you to grab your hundredths grid. And I want you to color in for me 40 hundredths. Go ahead. Here's what you might have done. You might have colored in plain and simple like this. 10, 20, 30, 40. 40 out of 100. Which looks like this written down as a decimal and in words, 40 hundredths. You might have also realized that it could be like that. So maybe you were tricky and you didn't grab this one, you grabbed this one, and that actually can show me 40 hundredths as well. Or you might have colored them in a different way. Maybe you colored one here and then 3/10ths or 30 hundredths over here. It really doesn't matter. They're equivalent. And they would represent the same amount. All right, here we go. 63 hundredths now. Grab a grid and color that in for me. 63 hundredths. Now, this time you couldn't use your tenths grid because we can't actually cut apart a tenth unless we traded it in, but we're not going to talk about that right now. We actually can't cut apart part of a dime. We can't cut apart part of a tenth. So you had to use your hundredths grid. And most of you probably did it like this. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 61, 62, 63. 63 hundredths. Now you could have represented it another way. And actually, let's see. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Oh, I made a mistake on this one. This is actually showing 73 hundredths. So ignore this one. This is supposed to be 63 hundredths. And we could spread it out. It doesn't have to look exactly like this. We can show the quantity another way, minus the one that was colored in wrong. 63 hundredths.